All right, welcome to the next lesson. In today's lesson, we will be building a human figure. This will be our first attempt at building a human figure from scratch. Today's class is building on previous classes where we learned how to go to the edit mode and use the edge select, face vertex select, edge select, and face select modes of an object. We also learned how to do the loop cut, Ctrl R on your keyboard. Okay, we learned how to extrude faces, yeah, and so on and so forth. Today's class will be building on all of those concepts. All right, so let's begin. Let me start a new document, have our regular cube, and what you're going to do is, using this scale tool, I want you to scale this object like this and make it just a little taller so that it looks like the human torso. The torso is from the neck up to the waist. Okay, something like this. Next up is we're going to the edit mode. You can use tab on your keyboard, or you can physically come here and switch between object mode and edit mode. All right, next up is you're going to use the loop cut. The shortcut to the loop cut is Ctrl R. So pressing Ctrl R on your keyboard, I want you to, on the vertical axis, turn the scroll wheel button, turning left, up, and down. You know what a scroll wheel on your mouse is, yeah? So if you turn it up and down, it would increase the number of loop cuts or reduce it. So you're going to stick to 3 and click a first time and click a second time to commit the changes. Yeah. Next up is you're going to create a second loop cut, this time on the horizontal axis. Press Ctrl R again on the horizontal axis, and using the scroll wheel, create. Is 3 sufficient? Yeah, I think 3 loop cuts is also sufficient. So click a first time and click a second time to lock in the changes. You know what, let's undo that. I think we will need 5. Okay, so Ctrl R, and instead of 3 loop cuts, let's do 5, something similar to this. 1 2 3 4 5. So click a first time and click a second time to commit changes, and you have something like this. So we have this cube that we scaled to look like this, and we've used the loop cut to cut it into several faces. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so having modeled our done the loop cut on our cube, okay, now I want you to be sure that you're on the front facing side, orthogonal side of this cube. The easiest way to do that is to click on X on the orbit tool here. So you see that we're now in the left orthographic view, which puts this object directly in the middle of the screen. Now I want you to use the edge select tool, yeah, and select this half. Use the face select tool rather, and select this half of the cube. Having selected the half of the box, press XX for xylophone on your keyboard and choose faces from the menu option that comes forth. Okay, so you should have something of this nature where half of the box is gone. Now why are we doing this? I'll explain in a second. So I want you to now come to this point and come to the under the properties tab. I want you to choose the modifier. Where is it? The modifier properties tab. Click on that, and you want to click on add modifier. We're going to add a mirror modifier. Okay, and click on the Y axis. You know, you see this X or Y under axis, you have X, Y, Z. So you want to click on the X axis. Make sure X is what is selected. If you were to get orbit round, you will see that there is the other half you deleted is now filled up. Let me explain what is happening. What we did is we deleted half of the box and we added a mirror modifier. What the mirror modifier does is simple. To show you, let me select this face, yeah, and scale it, and you notice that whatever I'm doing on the right is also happening on the left. When you're modeling symmetrical objects like a human figure, let me undo that. When you're modeling symmetrical figures like a human model, this reduces your work. So instead of you creating two hands, you create on one half, and it is duplicated, mirrored, to use the proper term now, it is mirrored onto the other half of your model. So that is the reason why we did this. So how did we get here again? We created a box. We created two loop cuts on the vertical axis and on the horizontal axis. Excuse me. Then we deleted half of the box and applied the mirror modifier. That is how we got to be here. So moving on, what are we going to do now? Our arms are going to go here. So select this face. I would want you to select all the faces on this axis. So hold the shift key and select all the faces on this side. You want to scale it. So press S for super to scale and X for xylophone, so that you're scaling it on this axis. You see what axis I'm on? Yeah, so you're scaling it on this axis just a tad, a little bit, so that if you're looking from on top, you see that this is not direct outrightly a square or a rectangle anymore. Yeah. Next up is you want to now extrude this face. So still remember how to extrude. You use E on the keyboard, E, yeah, and you can extrude forward or backward. So you extrude forward, that is for the forearm. Click that you are extruding. This is how much you want to extrude the forearm. Then press S on the keyboard, super, for scale, yeah, and scale it down. This time around you're scaling on all the three axes, X, Y, and Z. So you're not pressing anything after you press the S for scale. Scale it down just a little bit and click to commit your changes, yeah. Then extrude a second time, extrude it forward, click to commit, yeah. I'm using the middle mouse button to orbit in case you're wondering, and then press S on the keyboard again to scale. By now you should know that S is for scaling your object, and click. Now we've modeled, you get, the arm of our subject. Good. Let's take this a step further. Yeah, using the edge select tool, I want you to come to what will be the chest of our subject. Hold shift and select these two parts, and using the move tool, you can either use G on your keyboard to grab, or you can use the what's it called, on the keyboard to move this, yeah. And just let's move it. Can you see what I'm doing along this axis? Just move it out a little bit so that there is some bulge in the chest region. Okay, we could take it a step further, yeah, using the select to select what would be the waist and move it in just a little bit there. Maybe move this also in a little, just not as much as on top, so you have this little bulge right there. And then lastly, for what would be the waist, you want to select this, you would have to orbit round this time around and select all the edges along this axis, all three of them. You see what I've done? I've selected the edges on the right, left, and center, and you're moving it in like this, almost touching the edges of the middle, something like this. You see what I've done? Yeah. Now this spot is for the legs, so let's do that. Let's go ahead and extrude the legs. Sorry for that. So I'll click on the face. No, let me make sure you have the face select tool, and then click on the face. You can orbit if you can't select properly. Make sure you're selected to where the leg should be, yeah. Okay, and then extrude out. You're doing this twice also. Extrude This is the tie. Click to select to commit your change. Scale it down using the S tool, just a little like that. Click to commit. Yeah, let me move this up, and then extrude again. Press E on the keyboard and extrude further for the other half of the leg. Yeah, and S on the keyboard to scale it down just a little further. Let's yeah, something like that. There you are, and you'll see that we have the beginnings of a human form. You could always go ahead, go back in to fine-tune your model. For example, if you feel that the space here isn't enough, you could always come to fine-tune that just a little more. You get, I think I'm more comfortable with it like this. Yeah, maybe even the bust region here, I would not mind to select both. Yeah, and move it out just a little. There you are, something like that. Now this is just preference, personal preference. You don't have to do this. Yeah, so in the next class I'm going to continue with how to model for the head and join the neck to the head. Okay, so clearly stating this now, your class assignment is I want you to model this, what we have on the screen. Do your version of this and send it before the end of today. That is our classwork for today. Model this and send it before, model it, render it and send it before the end of today. All right, see you in the next class.